Alright, it's been 2 hours. What are you looking for?
My ass.
Your what?
My ass. You and your dumb Amazonian cousins kicked it somewhere, high and far, and I assumed it'd be up in the booth.
Well, luckily I have found it.
What? There's no way you found it. I have special cheeks.
Look here, you dumb of ass.
My ass! Welcome, one and all, to Amazons versus Undead, and another riveting tale by yours truly, Josh and Ayli.
Hello. Can we make the podcast art for this week me holding up your ass?
You could,
Holding up
if
your
we could
butt
get it
cheeks.
in less than 2 months. Yeah. Behold my butt cheeks and the current owner of them, as I have been reminded that not only are Amazons good, but I thoroughly believe that they have been made better with the inclusions of their latest kit.
But better?
We did-
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, even better.
Off to an interesting start here.
Well, I mean, we played a game in Tabletop Simulator of all things, and I will post links again about all the amazing work done by the tabletop modding community just for Blood Bowl. And this is a reminder again, the people who do this only do Blood Bowl mods for Tabletop Simulator. They're incredibly dedicated, and you should check them out. So, Ayli, I went with like a stereotypical undead team, but what did you choose out of the Amazon's fresh lineup?
So I went with, I believe the lineup that I actually had was, I had 6 line women, a thrower, 2 blitzers, 2 blockers, 3 rerolls, and that leaves me with 40k left over.
Okay.
So I went with a setup that I would have probably take into a league where you have 4 dedicated fans and you have all the positionals that you kind of need, and then you're really just off your apothecary, and after that you can kind of just build a bench or do whatever you want.
Did your game plan or setup change with these new positions?
A little. At its core, it was the same thing, but instead of, abusing the fact that I have 4 blodgers, because, okay, maybe we should talk about actually what's changed. Why don't we do that, because I just realized we haven't done that yet, and Blood Bowl, there's a lot to keep up on sometimes, so I think we can talk about this. Changes to the team are, there's no more catchers, and instead you've got Amazons have blockers now. Blitzers lost block. They have jump up and the new hit and run skill, so when they make a block action, and as far as we're aware, that works with a blitz as well. After making the action, you can move 1 step away for free, whatever that's supposed to mean, because Pile Driver says free foul, but it is your 1 foul for the turn. You can move away from after you make a block 1 space, as long as you're not marked by anybody. You cannot be marked or marked by anyone. Sorry, marking or marked by. So you can't stand next to their really stupid big guy because you're still marking them. The blockers have strength 4, they have defensive and dodge. Everybody kept dodge, and the throwers got on the ball, pass, and safe pass. And pass on a 3+. That's kind of like the short and fast list of changes. So basically, you have no more blodge, but you do have some other pieces and parts to mess with. Also, the only primary strength access is on blockers. Blitzers no longer have it. So the game plan kind of here is now, well, you don't have any more block, right? So you can't abuse that really. So instead, what I was doing was I was kind of, I was still getting up in your face and just relying on dodge and your lack of block to really win the day. But the other thing that I was doing was I was playing very like hit and run with the blitzers. I mean, I wasn't staying based up with them. I wasn't getting in your face and trying to engage your flanks. I think for the most part, I was just like doing little hit and run tactics on people. I was kind of like picking out an isolated target, an isolated white, something like that, and just knocking him on his ass and then running a space away so that you have to spend your blitz to hit me. Which is a really good way of trading, actually, because that movement 7 is really good at reaching in the early turns. It's really, you can basically hit whatever you want, right? So I basically was just kind of doing the same thing that I always did with Zons, base up, start smacking you, but I wasn't based up as aggressively. I was kind of holding back for a little bit, waiting for a time to poke a hole in, and then I can run into your back line and start wrecking havoc, which is exactly what I did.
Precisely.
Sorry, I love Amazon.
That we started with
They're my favorite team. Yeah. I love this episode.
It was a good showcase. That being said, it should be mentioned that these were fresh teams, so I couldn't build a kit that was better against the Amazons, but I'm not entirely sure if I would either way. I mean, obviously there's putting block on the undead team as a priority, but one thing that I would say was a little curious is that I wasn't getting pals really at all. And of course, when you're facing a team that has a lot of dodge, having 2 outcomes that can knock someone over and now being reduced to 1 has a huge difference when you suddenly have a wide, not wide selection, when you're suddenly reduced to pushing your way past Amazons. So in the first couple of turns, like I think I maybe knocked down maybe 1 or 2 Amazons. I didn't break armor, and the rest was just me being reactionary because I earnestly did not know what to do when being on the back foot and having to contain an Amazon team, because the undead just don't contain. They make a line and they use cheap players to generate value by injuring your cost efficient or your costly players, and I wasn't doing that. So plan A failed. My plan B was, well, I gotta be hitting them eventually, right? And I wasn't. To just give a brief rundown, I used stereotypical undead team with 3 rerolls, minus a ghoul, and that was pretty much it. No, wait, I actually brought the ghoul in this time.
So you had a ghoul.
I brought both
because I looked at him holding the ball and I said I want to plaster that guy on the ground.
Precisely, and she did.
Yeah, it turns out. Yeah, okay, you look at a team full of dodge and you think it's going to dominate 1000 TV. Nobody is surprised. We've been playing this game for long. Amazons still did the Amazon thing at low TV. They still knock you flat on your butt, and they don't get knocked over themselves. So what you end up doing is you end up coming out ahead on blocks all the time because your opponent spends their entire time standing up their players, and you just stay base to base the entire time.
Yeah.
Nothing is new there. That is still a thing. So really, I think the only thing to talk about is like how the team has changed. Spoiler alert for our game. I'll just flat out and say it. I got it 2-0. I got the ball out loose from him on turn 4 of his drive, and I was able to score it. Just kind of keeping him contained, keeping him isolated, setting up so I always have 2 dies that cascade into other 2 die blocks, and I just kind of kept him down the entire game. Which was really weird, because this is not an edition where stalling has generally been good. So the fact that Zons were still able to do that was kind of interesting.
Well, you were in a position to stall. I was the one that was on the back foot. I was the one that was being aptly contained, and even at max range with players that I had up at the beginning of my turn, I wasn't going to reach you. So that was the opportune time to stall. It might have been a different story if I had like a blitzer or a goal open, which at one particular point I did, but I'm still taking a huge risk. The odds are definitely not on my side, and I was burning through those 3 rerolls quite fast.
Yeah, you definitely were.
So I guess my question then goes into, how do you think this new edition of Amazons compares to other new legacy teams, or rather the new legacy team of Necromantic or the Norse?
I know Necromantic were a legacy team at the time. Huh.
No, wait. They weren't a legacy team. They were actually I think they were an NEF team.
Yeah, then they finally brought him into the edition.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Mostly because I don't have a lot of experience with Norse in this edition. I think that we are seeing a trend where they are trying to make, throwers worth it, because it turns out a 3-up passing skill plus, pass is not worth your time. And I think that they're starting to find out that people are not taking that, because this is the second thrower we've seen. The past 2 teams that have been released both had, thrower positionals, and each one of them had more skills than the base, the base rulebook throwers, right? So I think we are seeing a design shift here where, for God's sakes, I get 4 skills and a better passing stat, and I have the exact same stat line as a line woman otherwise, for an extra 30k. For an extra 30k, I get on the ball, pass, and safe pass. That's a lot for 30k. Compared to the...
It truly is.
The throwers are only 80k and the line women are 50k. That is a crap ton of stuff. And I'm not sure if... Let me take a look at the Norse. Because the Valkyries were really expensive on Norse, right? Yeah, so for 45k, you had a completely different set of stats and a different skill line, for the most part. So, yeah, okay, it's not as comparable, but the other thing, too, is that on the Norse, the Valkyries have agility, general, and passing. And for the throwers, they only get general passing primary. Agility and strength are secondary. So I think the most meaningful comparison is actually comparing them to... Okay, design note-wise, we can compare them to the Norse. In that the Norse remained relatively unchanged. What I mean by that... that's not true. The core of the Norse remained unchanged.
By core, you mean gameplay-wise and aesthetic-wise?
Gameplay-wise, yeah. You can still do all the things you were doing before as Norse. Your linemen are a little bit different. They can't GFI much anymore. And you have Thick Skull now. But you can still just take linemen, berserkers, a couple Ulfwereners, and a Valkyrie. And have that no Yeti lineup, or you can do the Yeti lineup, for your Norse. The Beer Boars added something to the team, right? Your core, pieces of your team didn't actually change so much as you got things that were added to it. Does that make sense? And then the Valkyrie is a total,
sense.
Got a total change, but let's be honest, it lost block, which is kind of a big deal. But you still have Dauntless, and then you got Catch, Pass, and Strip Ball instead. So that was a big shift. But, you can still... your team looks similar between editions, right?
It does. My thing that I was kind of disappointed in with the Amazons was that they didn't have a... kind of a companion or a funny positional to go with their otherwise very serious team. I kind of wanted a Beer Boar equivalent
a snake
to
friend.
come out for the Amazons. Because obviously when it comes to being competitive or the meta choices, they usually stick out like a sore thumb in Blood Bowl. Especially when you talk about teams like the Undead, where they're so inexpensive where you can just kind of take as much as you want. It's maybe a little bit different, like cost wise. But I was like, maybe there's a snake, and the snake does things. Because, there's a really kind of almost fetish level of snakes on the Amazon team.
I got it. Okay. A 5-1, 3+, no passing, 5-up AV with dodge, no hand, stunty, titchy, and stab.
Yeah.
The stab snack.
Well, the old stab
Or
snack.
give the thrower stab. She's the one with the snack. That would have been really funny. I would have laughed hysterically if the thrower had stab. Just...
And it's not like you actually stab with the mouth. The snake gets really rigid and you stab it with
you
the
actually
tail end.
stab it with the snake.
What is she doing with that snake? Oh no!
Oh no!
Uh,
Insert the smash home run baseball bat sound here, as yet another guy gets KO'd by the snake by the snake bat.
Yeah, just there's a picture of the woman in question shoving like lead weights into the snake's mouth to make it heavier.
We're having a weird morning here on BBSPN.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like it is Blood Bowl. It should still have that essence of, oh, this is just a funny universe to be like enjoyed rather than to be meticulously analyzed. And I feel like that starts with having positionals that that are just an indicator that you're playing this team to have fun rather than playing it to be overtly serious. It's kind of like when the Dwarves have a death roller. Like, you can play a very serious team. In fact, you could probably play a serious team and maybe have a death roller down the road, but the death roller is just a huge liability. And I kind of want positionals like that, because when you have the extra money to just spend, why not spend it on something silly if you're just in a league with other folks? Because when I see someone pick up Amazons, and I don't want to knock this on you, Ayli, but when I see someone pick up Amazons, it's normally that, oh, this person wants to have fun. Like, this person is trying to beat my ass.
Well, that's the worst part about playing Amazons, too, is I get that all the damn time. So, full disclosure, I think we've talked about this before, but full disclosure, Amazons are my favorite team. Bar none. They are my favorite team to play. There's a lot of reasons for that, but the real one that it comes down to is I was freshly out of the closet for not too long when I started playing Blood Bowl, and I liked my Skaven, but I was poking around Blood Bowl 2 for a league division with my friends, and this was the only team that had women on it outside of Dark Elves, and somebody else was already playing Dark Elves. So, yes, it was literally the representation, but also just because I love how they play. I ended up just falling in love with how the team played. But yeah, like, that is the one thing that I hate about it, is that I go to play Amazons, and I love how the team plays, but everybody else just hates me for it. It's like nobody has fun in the league. Like, nobody gets to have fun when they play against me, apparently. I do my best to be light, to be jovial, to, hype my opponent up, and it's just never enough. It's like, I just...
See, I don't agree that you need to apologize and be jovial just because you're playing Amazons. I feel like that's the kind of... When you join a league, the first thing the league needs to post is the roster of who's playing what.
Yeah.
And it's your decision to play in that league. And once you make that conscious decision to play a league, you kind of have to be okay with how other people's play, so long as they're not cheating, or they're not cheating, like actually cheating the game of Blood Bowl, not just the usual cheating that's allowed in the game. that's kind of my shtick, is that I don't feel like you should be punished or have to act a certain way when you're playing a team. I know I get on dwarf players a lot, but that's only because I feel like a lot of new players will gravitate towards dwarves and stick with dwarves without testing a lot more than dwarves.
But the other
that's the only thing I ever get
is like you're not getting mad, like you're not like getting pissed off at the person because they're playing dwarves. You're just like, ugh, dwarves. You know?
Yeah.
I haven't actively gotten
true.
like people very angry with me because I was playing Amazons. And I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you other than this is the team that I like playing and I'm having fun. And it's part of why I'm glad they got a bit of a rework, I'm not gonna lie. Because they play the way that I want them to still, while being at least a little fairer. You know, team-wide dodge is stupid, but nobody starts with blodge anymore. You know, so
Yeah.
if I square up against humans, their blitzer can 2-dice somebody and take a both down and knock somebody off the pitch. You know, like there's a game being played here. I have had games as Amazons, especially like late TV games, where they were just not games. Like they were not even close to a game. We can talk about how my opponents maybe made mistakes and stuff like that, but what it boiled down to was I have a bunch of guard Mighty Blow blodgers, and I just have blodge across the team, and you don't have enough tackle.
That's true. I mean, it's... I worry that in response, like, I've seen how Amazons have been taken critically lately. I don't think it's that serious. But I do know that there is a generation of players who really hate certain teams and just flat out will not play if certain teams are there. And again, that still feels like a league problem to me, or just a you problem.
I think it is
because
just a you problem. Full disclosure, we here at BBSPN do not condone being a dick to somebody because of the team they're playing.
Because, I mean, the whole point of playing different teams is that you have to react to them a different way. And you also need to react to how that team is built. And you're given all the information you need to beat a team at the beginning of a game. How you use the information that is given to you when you look at the sheet that they have is up to you. Well, now, of course, there's a gray area when it comes to, taking a massive amount of casualties before a game or getting screwed over with some of the inducements that you use and the prayers and Nuffle and all that crap. But that's the thing. Like, you can't just play against Amazons the way you would normally play. And that's the way Blood Bowl should be. It shouldn't just be completely symmetrical on how you play and what to expect from a game, because then it's just chess.
Yeah, then it is actually just chess. It's like
if
I wanted to play chess, I'd be playing chess. No, I want to play stupid goblin murder football that
exactly
has
and add a couple wizards.
A lot of variants. This edition. The big thing that we noted about that people talked about, as people kind of come back to the game, and I hear this from people who come back to the game, is like, wow, they got rid of they changed it ever so slightly so there's more variants, and that changes everything.
Well, yeah, and that's how it should be. But what I was trying to say is that I worry that if this team is taken critically in too much of a negative way, that we'll see either two things. We'll either see them get errataed into something that resembles old Amazons, which I wouldn't want, because that would ruin I think a lot of the flavor that Amazon has right now. Or two, we're going to be seeing Chaos Dwarves and Khemri next in terms of the new legacy teams that they will come out with. Like, I'm pretty sure, I don't have the figures with me, so take this with a grain of salt from my ass, that there is a probability that Blood Bowl comes into the same issue, that Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k have, where we see an emergence of power creep that kind of changes the definition of a tier 1 team. That you have your good teams, and then you have your seriously good teams. And
I don't know if that's going to happen.
But
I mean, obviously there's more teams they could add, and there has been a little bit of like star player power creep. And just in general some power creep, but it's also like the Norse have always been a pretty good team. Zons have always been a great team. I mean, what was the team that came up before that? Khorne. Khorne's a new thing. They're batshit insanity, and I love
Khorne
them.
got top 10.
Yeah, no, Khorne's doing really well.
Khorne got top 10.
But like also,
they
yeah, but I mean, like you look at a team-wide frenzy and you don't think that's stupid, and you play against team-wide frenzy and you don't necessarily think that's stupid. You know, it's crazy and it's wacky, but it's not, you know, game-breaking. And what was the team that came out before that?
Before Khorne, I think it was Necromantic. The new Necromantic.
No, because
team.
Necromantic was before BB 2020. I want to say, because they're in the base rulebook.
No, it wasn't. No, because it went Snotlings, and then right after Necromantic, and that's when they introduced the new edition. Right after they did Necromantic.
Right, because they were in the new rulebook. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then with new edition, then it's also Imperial Nobility and Black Orcs. So it's like,
yes.
Okay, so like none of these teams have been ridiculoly fucking crazy yet. I mean, okay, Old World Alliance was really dumb in Blood Bowl 2016, but they fixed it.
I'm just erring on the side of. I'm erring on the side of caution because I've seen there hasn't been a lot of negative changes with the games that I've played from Games Workshop, but there has been a lot of changes, and there's been a lot of changes that have been hard to keep up with as someone who can't play regularly in his environment right now.
Yeah.
So it's probably just old man syndrome trademark.
Old GW
I can't
fan
stand
syndrome.
Change.
You see,
I do fear that sometimes. I do fear that, you know, the amount of change is something that I will just learn to loathe instead of be excited for. But I don't know. We'll see.
It's all those.
We'll see what the next NEF.
It all started when you were a fan of Bretonnians as a child and watching everybody have their cool 8th edition army books while you were still on your 6th one, and it just went downhill from there. This is deep set childhood trauma we're uncovering.
That's not true. I became a Bretonnian fan when I started playing Blood Bowl with you guys.
Really?
Initially,
Huh.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
I mean, I thought Bretonnians were kind of cool, but the problem with Bretonnia is that it's the same problem everyone repeats, is that, they're just a weird amalgamation of French and English tradition, French and English lore, and French and English lore is very... It's lore that everyone knows, which is good for when you're introducing kids to a hobby, but as an adult, it feels very uncreative.
Yeah, but they're so cool.
They are. Yeah, I mean, they have an aesthetic, just like everything in Warhammer. They have an aesthetic that is pleasing. But my first Age of Sigmar, fuck, it's Warhammer Fantasy Battles. That doesn't date me. But was the Chaos Warriors. I liked heavy metal. I liked the Edge. I liked the Edge a little too much as a kid, but I'm not going into that. But that's what I'm afraid of, because the last couple teams that we have on the Legends roster, save for Vampires, are really serious teams. And they're serious teams that come packed with a lot of skills.
I mean, they are. I mean, so... I kind of dislike this notion of, serious versus not serious teams. I mean, there are teams that are good, there are teams that win tournaments, and then there are teams that don't always do that, but they generally play games. I mean, I'll roll into a league with ogres with my friends. And
Yeah.
I might not win, but I'll go to playoffs. Are ogres a serious team? No, they just murder things.
Yeah. Well, I guess let me replace serious with consistent. So, or skilled.
Okay, consistent.
Like,
Yeah, no,
highly
I think
skilled.
consistent is a better way to frame this. They are fairly consistent.
They're consistent because now we have block. Like the only thing the dwarves suffer at is ball carrying, but they still have tools that can do it quickly. It's just not that strong early on. But Chaos Dwarves generate SPP very quickly, so early on doesn't last that long.
Yeah, so you're worried about teams becoming too consistent. In an edition that has made it very abundant, like made it clear that there's a lot of inconsistency. There's been a lot of changes in favor of inconsistency. Yeah. Okay, I don't think that's going to come to that necessarily. God, how do I describe this? I think I say that every episode.
Well, it's the point we have to keep coming back to. What's the future of Blood Bowl going forward? Because at the time of this video, we haven't gotten a whole lot besides the unveiling of Blood Bowl 3, which is coming out in February.
I think the future of Blood Bowl is the same that it's been for a while now. I don't think the future is changing, or like it's coming and it's gonna change everything. It's really not. Like that's not even close. I think it's just gonna keep on keeping on. I mean, that's kind of at its crux what Blood Bowl is. You know, I don't think the player base necessarily wants a whole bunch of big shakeups. I think some changes are nice, but at the end of the day, Blood Bowl players are content to keep playing Blood Bowl, not to play the newest edition of 40k or fantasy battles in that sense, where the new addition to that always would change something. You'd always make a bunch of changes. You know, this isn't about, at its crux, the game is still going to be the same game that we all like playing.
Yeah. It's about I guess it's about keeping it fresh but keeping it familiar.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. And I think that's what, coming full circle back to what we were actually supposed to talk about. Well, that's kind of a rude way to put it. But like coming back to the actual Amazon roster and like the changes done to it. It is fresh, but it's also very, very familiar. Like, I'm going to play this roster a whole bunch. I'm going to have a blast. And it's going to be great. And somebody's probably going to get really, really mad at me. And I'm going to say, whatever, dude. It's Goblin football.
So what is your final say? Like, not only about the team, but how it's going to be received for people who want to pick this up, what to expect.
Oh, God.
What do you think are the words of wisdom? Besides using it to come out of the closet.
I hate you so much. I hate you so much.
I'm sorry, just like
I didn't use.
I imagine you picking up an Amazon model being like this. I imagine you picking up an Amazon model like this changes everything.
This changes everything.
Or like it's like a magical item that it's like plus 16 to gay.
16 change your. It's the item in the MMO that changes your gender and then adds plus 16 to gay.
It's like a Demon Souls where they had the gender slider and it just takes your gender and throws it in a different direction. Yes, I want gender X to be 100.
Okay, so the words of wisdom are a little lengthy. If you have never played Amazons before and you want to try them out, go for it. They're very fun. They're not going to play like any other team that you've really played before. They give you a really unique experience and feeling. Go for it. The general things that I say to people that I don't think that they realize very often, at least when you're first starting out in Amazons, is yes, you have AV 8 up. Get based up anyway. Your opponent only knocks you down on 6s. right? They need a POW. You need a POW or a stumble. You will get ahead mathematically. This is not factoring in block.
Unless they're dwarves.
But you will start getting ahead. Okay? Your team is fragile if it gets knocked over. The problem is that it doesn't get knocked over. Skill-wise, what I will, or like, gameplay, like general gameplay and wise, you really want to feed either your blitzers or your blockers touchdowns. Which one you start with, I'll let you decide that. I think the blitzers are the safer one. I think trying to feed blockers SPP can be kind of greedy, but depending on the matchup, like especially if you're up against a stunty team, go for it. Those blockers are not going to get SPP very easily. You only have 2 strength access. You need to think about, after you get block first, because block is the first skill on every player on this team, straight up. You need to decide on your blockers if they're going to get guard or mighty blow. I think guard is better. Guard gives you more 2 dice, so you enact your game plan better. At the cost of kind of stalling development on your blockers. You could go for mighty blow. I think it's greedy as hell, but you could do it. I don't like using the blockers as blitzers. Frankly, that strength 4 is really useful. And yes, they can make blitz actions. Yes, they can knock somebody over and take someone out. And if you go mighty blow first, you better start using them as a blitzer. But you are pulling a strength 4 off your line. You are putting that strength 4 into a position of, I want to keep this player as free as possible so I can hit stuff. So I can hit what I need to hit. Blitzers, you don't have primary strength access. You're probably treating them a little bit like nobility blitzers, or elf blitzers even. I think elf blitzers might be best. Get block first, you got agility access, go for sidestep, or tackle. I think those are your next best options. They do have strength secondary. I don't know if I would actually save up for mighty blow. I don't know. I mean, I think you can after like sidestep or after tackle, but that's a long way away. Throwers, give them block and they're happy. This team has a lot of different options on the positionals. Like, I mean, you can use your blockers as a blitzer. You can try to level one up and go like block mighty blow, and just say screw it. I've got strength 4 mighty blow. Let's go. And I think that's fine. I mean, I think end of the day, what you really want for your blockers is like block, guard, mighty blow. Your blitzers probably want block, sidestep, tackle. Not necessarily in that order, but get block first, please. Give your throwers block. Give your lion women block. And then probably tackle on a few of them. There you go. You're done. Maybe wrestle on 1 or 2.
All right.
There you go. Words of wisdom are keep based up early and often. Know your skills. And just fucking roll them.
Just fucking
Just get into that death
like
ball.
Me.
Just separate out your your opponent's team with your blocks. Get into that death ball, because usually what ends up happening with like high level Amazon, like high TV Amazons, is you kind of like end up splitting their team in half or to a bunch of different groups. Because you have guard, you just kind of get the 2 dies on them every time they stand up. You just knock them back onto the ground until they die. Yeah, no, this team is brutal. If you want to play a resiliently brutal team, play Amazons. They're not going to let you down.
All right. And while I go glue my ass back on, we're going to do a channel update real quick. So for the Discord, we will be attempting a Blood Bowl 3 League when it comes out. We have two episodes in the works for the holiday season, but it is going to be the holiday season coming up, and it's only going to get busier on my end as the year comes to a close. So we'll probably... Do you still want to do an Amazon guide?
I'm going to do an Amazon guide.
For new ones?
The other thing, though, is that the other couple episodes that are coming up, because real life is kind of eating up a lot of Josh's time. So these are not going to be necessarily episodes. These are going to be episodes and they're going to be content. They're going to be podcast content about the Warhammer hobby more broadly. About the tabletop miniatures hobby more broadly, I should say. Not the Warhammer hobby. Yeah. So,
and we'll label them as non-Blood Bowl episodes just in case you...
Yeah, so...
Just in case you don't want to hear about, like, Age of Sigmar or 40K or whatever comes in between.
Yeah, we're not going to be moving away from Blood Bowl as our primary content, but it's really just that Josh is very, very busy right now, and he's going to be busy for the foreseeable future. So we don't want to not make content, but at the same time, you know, like we will do Blood Bowl content in Josh's like brief, probably 1 or 2 month absence. But like, I'm working on an episode right now about narrative Age of Sigmar. Okay, and that's going to be very different from what we normally do. You know, the energy is going to be different, and it's probably going to end up being a lot longer. It's going to be with some guests, some good friends of mine. But we're gonna, while Josh is away, I'm gonna kind of like dabble in the hobby more broadly, you know, a little bit. If that sounds cool to you, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, but
we'll be back.
We'll be back. Yeah, we'll be back.
The content season, if I can really call it that, is a lot brighter next year than it is for this winter, unless Games Workshop does something kind of impractical for how they release things by the winter season.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't unleash anything at Halloween, I don't see them unleashing anything at Thanksgiving, save for maybe a teaser video. But I think Blood Bowl content will be much better next year. And hopefully we'll have some videos of the league, things that are worth posting for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
So it's a slight change for now, but we'll be back.
Yeah. All right. This has been an episode of BBSPN. We will talk to you on the pitch later. Later on the pitch. Yeah, later on the pitch.
See ya.